welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I don't know why I always introduce it based on what time of day I'm recording it, because if I record it first thing in the morning, I'm like, good morning, and it's like, well, not everyone's listening. First thing in the morning on my way to work, or like right now, I'm recording it at night. I'm like, good evening, and it's probably going to go up tomorrow morning, at which point I'll be like, well, it's the morning, not evening, so why are we saying good evening? But anyway, not much has changed on the COVID front since earlier today when I did the Harley Quinn episode. Well, recorded the Harley Quinn episode. I recorded it about 4 o'clock, give or take. I just put it up about a half hour ago. And now I am recording this episode, which is about the Gray Man, which I'll put up tomorrow morning, and we'll see how that goes. I'm in the middle of Light and Magic, the series on Disney Plus about Industrial Light and Magic. It's garbage propaganda, but I'm like halfway through the first episode. It's not bad. But what we are here to talk about is The Gray Man, which was not very good. I think if I have a problem with the Netflix, the Netflix universe of nonsense, it is the fact that these movies that they're releasing are not very good, and they're very expensive and not very good. Like, when I saw Mixtape or Hustle on Netflix, these were very low budget, but they were good movies. Like, when I saw, like Hustle is pretty good, it's a sports movie, and Mixtape, way earlier in the year, was a pretty good, coming-of-age story. But the problem sets in when we talk about something like The Gray Man, or The Adam Project, or Spiderhead, or there was another one, Extraction. And you have these huge name actors with these massive budgets for visual effects bonanzas, and you're just like, well, what's the point of putting all that money into it if the story is shit? And I liken it to if you went to a nice restaurant and you ordered a meal, and they serve you the meal, and there's an overpowering of some garnish. There's too many capers. There is too much cinnamon. There are things like that are just way overpowering, and well, having them in that degree will detract from the overall experience, especially if the underlying protein or vegetable or whatever that makes the meal up is also severely, lacking in some way. Now, for the sake of something like this, the underlying thing is the story, because with any movie, story is the most important. I've said this before, the story is the most important thing, and if you go in, you can have a movie with shitty effects and shitty, and everything else is kind of not great or okay, but if the story is good, the movie will work. And then if the story is not good, it's forgettable. And the example I always use for this is Avatar. When we talk about Avatar, where it's been 13 years since Avatar came out, because it came out in 2009. 13 years ago, this movie came out. And it's one of those things where it's like, what do you remember about the story? And it's like, okay, it's Deadly with wolves, but with blue space cats. What's the main character's name? You could probably name Jake Sully, but who did Michelle Rodriguez play? Did you even remember Michelle Rodriguez was in the movie? Zoe Saldana was in the movie. What was the name of her character? What was the name of the antagonist? Everyone remembers Unobtainium, but what else is there to remember about the movie? And the reason is the story's lackluster, but the visuals are great. Now, the problem with The Gray Man is the visuals aren't great. They're just kind of what you would expect from a $200 million movie. It's not doing anything above and beyond in the way that, The Matrix did, or anything like that. If you're gonna do this much money, you're gonna put this much money into a project, you have to do something memorable with the story too. Because a visual effects bonanza is not enough, especially when you're going to be putting it on a streamer where the majority of people are not going to be watching it on an IMAX screen. If you're going to spend $200 million on a movie that's a visual effects extravaganza in some way, put it in theaters. Put it out in a way that people will be able to see it in the biggest and best way possible to experience in the fullest way possible. Like, they're putting it, like, when they spent $500 million each on Infinity War and Endgame, between movie and marketing, was like $250 each. The two movies came out to be about $1 billion in total. If the pandemic had hit before Endgame came out, there is no way in hell that movie gets punted to streaming, because that's a movie you have to see on a screen to experience to its fullest effect. There's no way in hell Multiverse of Madness is going to be put out to streaming. And you know, when you look at these other movies that are going out, like Top Gun Maverick, I have a feeling when someone goes back and watches Top Gun Maverick on their phone, it'll still work. Yes, I'm not saying it won't work when you watch it on your phone, or if you watch it on a plane, or if you watch it on your laptop, or on your TV in your living room. I'm saying that something like that will work a little bit differently and a little bit better, given all these opportunities to push it forward and make it work in a real way. I feel like that's a fundamental issue with this movie, is that you spent a lot of money doing this, and then it looks like I'm watching Multiverse of Madness on my computer, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm distracted. I've seen this movie before, so I know it's going to happen. I can go walk away, I can take a piss, I can go make some chicken nuggets, I can go and do any number of other things while I'm watching it. And they're not taking that into consideration, or maybe they are, and that's why they're saying the story is less important. But if you're going to sit there and watch it with intent, then you're not going to get the same experience out of it. Because you're like, oh, well, there's millions of holes to poke in this movie, because it's like, the whole thing is about a Black Ops CIA team, and I have a problem with that whole thing, because it's basically, this guy was in jail for murder, because to save his brother's life, during a domestic situation where his dad was going to kill him, he kills his dad, and he goes to jail for life for that, like, and he needs to be part of, and then that's the person that the CIA goes to and is like, we're going to let you out if you do that. Like, there are so many things just with that conceit alone that I'm like, this doesn't really make too much sense. And then they bring him out, and then they bring in Chris Evans, who, he has a great performance, but this performance, if it's not Chris Evans, is utterly forgettable. Because this performance is nothing unique about the character, because, like, it's a role I could see Kiefer Sutherland playing. I could see Bruce Willis playing this had he not had aphasia. Like, it's the kind of whacked out nut job who's working for the government. Like, you can see someone else playing that role, and you can see them playing it well. You don't need Chris Evans there, and Chris Evans works in this role only because we know him as the Boy Scout. We know him as Captain America now for what, 10 years he played Captain America? And if it wasn't for that, the impact of him playing this psychopath would not hit. And he's a great actor. I'm not taking anything away from him. But the role is generic, and the only thing that gets brought to it is us knowing him as an actor outside of this for 10 years, as he is in this role. I also don't think necessarily that the movie necessarily, you know, beyond that, like, the whole thing where it's like, this is a Black Ops team and this guy's a psychopath, yeah, I get all of that. That all makes sense. I understand totally where that is all going. It all makes perfect sense to me. My problem with it is, beyond that, is that it's designed to be a covert Black Ops team. And I understand he's a psychopath. I understand all of that. And I understand that he's being brought in to track down Ryan Gosling because Ryan Gosling has information that's dangerous. It's kind of like if someone were to get away with the papers about what the Suicide Squad is, and Amanda Waller had to track them down. The problem is that if Amanda Waller brings in, I don't know, Captain Boomerang or any number of other Suicide Squad members to track down, or like, let's say she hired, I don't know, let's do Prometheus. or Vigilante, or any number of other characters like that. She tracks them down, enlists them, go out and catch so-and-so who has this information. And if that person goes out and does the level of damage and carnage that Chris Evans causes, it's understandable because he's a bad guy. Chris Evans is not ever explained to be this psycho-criminal arms dealer or anything like that. That's like, okay, it would be like there's something to pin it on, where they're willing to be like, we need to hire this guy of all people to track down Ryan Gosling. And also it's not explained how Ryan Gosling got the training to be able to do this. Like, because the way they explain it is, it was a domestic incident where he killed his father to save his brother's life. I get that. I understand that totally. My problem is, they don't really give you a reason to be like, oh, okay, and now I understand why he can hold his own against the best person that has ever worked in this division. Because that's ultimately what Chris Evans is. And I don't buy that they don't give a good explanation as to how he learned that, considering it was only like 6 years. And Chris Evans was career military. It's not a great movie, and Netflix has made a bunch of other smaller budget movies that were much better with the same budget. And I think that's the fundamental problem with this thing, is that we're going to sit here, we're going to throw all this money at this project, cool, and we're going to throw all this money to market the project, but if the project's not good, then, well, we're stuck with this not very good movie. That definitely could have been better. There was definitely space to do more, but they just didn't. But on that note, we will wrap up here for today because I am tired and I'm getting home and I am going to go and eat after my trek around the neighborhood to do this piece. Don't watch The Gray Man. It's not worth your time. It's not entertaining and it's not fun. And if you want to see $200 million on display, I mean, there are better movies you can see the $200 million being spent on. But we'll be back with more stuff later this weekend. So until then, have a great rest of your week.